Hello student. In this lecture we are going to talk about criminology and some explanations of crime. So criminology is a body of knowledge regarding crime. It includes the process of making laws, violations of law, and reaction towards law. Criminology is very, I would say, interdisciplinary subject because it draws on perspectives as diverse as psychology, psychiatrics, sociology, anthropology, law, of course, sociology. My concern is with sociology's contribution to the study of crime. Before discussion on its theories, let's try to understand some of the very principles on which criminology stands. The first is social aspect of lawmaking, including an analysis of social conditions that lead to the formulation of social laws. Second is the scientific analysis of the cause, the etiologies, factors. Third is penology, which is concerned with the punishment and treatment of offenders and of prevention of crime. So, the ultimate aim of criminology is the development of a body of principles and basic formulation regarding the process of law, etiology of crime, and the treatment and prevention procedures. There are various definitions of criminology according to a very important thinker, that is Sutherland, who defines criminology like that. Criminology is the body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomenon. This definition exhibits sociological bias and regards crime to be reaction to certain set of social factors and causes. According to Eliot and Mary were very important social analysts who very extensively study crime. And Eliot defines criminology may be defined as the scientific study of crime and its treatment. The definition, besides emphasizing the scientific investigation into the nature and etymology of crime, stresses the practical or utilitarian nature of body of knowledge, namely devising ways and means to prevent or reduce the incident of crime and rehabilitate criminals, offenders as normal members of the society. In common sense, there are various aspects of understanding of crime, various myths attached to crime. Like when we say educated people less participate in crime than that of uneducated people, this is not the fact. Crime like white collar criminals, they are well educated people. They are doing crime, right? So there is not any correlation, established correlation between criminals and their qualifications. So there are various myths, you know, regarding crime. And if you trace the history of crime, some of the earliest effort of defining criminals involve superstition and supernatural causes. For example, people who acted outside the realm of normal behavior were sometimes accused of being witches. So, as far as the proper explanation of crime is concerned, the page that I discussed in last lecture, that is enlightenment or modernity, particularly with the advent of modernity and enlightenment, we got very different understanding of human nature. Idea of free will came into existence. People have free will to choose their behavior, right? And crime as a choice is more attractive to some than abiding by the law. People may refrain from crime if punishment or pain for it may be greater than the gain for it. This is called the classical school. We have another school in explanation of crime called positivism, which states criminals are born. Criminals' act is influenced by internal or external factors. Therefore, the role of science of understanding cause and control of crime becomes significant. Over the years, many people have sought biological explanation of crime, which views criminal behavior as arising, at least in part, from person's physical or biological makeup. Lombroso, who is considered the father of criminology, he states criminals are born. His conclusion were based on comparison of 400 prisoners with a group of Italian soldiers. He worked among them and he identified some of the physical traits of criminals. What Lombroso believed is that many criminals may be found to have distinctive physique like low forehead, prominent jaw, cheekbone, protruding ears, excessive hairness, and usually a long arms that taken together cause them to resemble the ape-like ancestor of human being, right? So there are 22 physical traits he identified in order to identify criminals. Lombroso also belongs to sociobiologist school, which explain crime by looking answer within individual, right? Another thinker called Seldom, who suggested the different body types associated with elevated risks of criminal and deviant behavior. The three main body types are endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. And these somotypes developed by Selden were used to explain deviant behavior or criminal behavior. Selden concluded that criminal behavior varied by body composition. Criminologists also agreed that criminal behavior is for the most part due to the psychological and social forces. Right? Psychologist focuses on abnormalities within the individual instead of genes. Psychologists examined what are called personality disorder. Their suppositions is deviating individuals having deviating personalities, and that subconsciousness motives drive people to crime. We all know legacy of Sigmund Freud was a great psychologist. He gave a very significant understanding of human nature by exploring the unexplored dimension of social action. Sigmund Freudian psychoanalyst theory attributed criminal conduct to serious mental pathology, or at least to some unresolved emotional conflicts. Offenders or criminals were said to break the law because of a need to act out of emotional conflict. This is called bentiality. From a desire to be punished or because of an inability to control sexual impulses which derived from traumatic period in their psychological development. If you read the topic like criminal profiling, you will certainly understand the significance of psychoanalytic perspective. The seed of criminal behavior are sown in the neglected soil of childhood, right? And if you see the history of criminal profiling, you will imagine to see a lot of criminals are conditioned to crime because of their childhood experience. So, psychological explanation tend to discuss personalities, movies, aggressions, frustrations, and other subjective factors. There is a big conflict between crime and psychology in West, because nowadays people are thinking about crime very differently. Sociologists, psychologists in particular, or social scientists in general, are revisiting the notion of crime, right? Because many psychologists came with the findings or explanations associate crime with sickness, arguing that crime results from a psychological abnormalities or mental illness. From this perspective, criminality is linked with psychological disorder or maladjustment, often developing during childhood experience. Evidence in support of such connection come from research on personality defects and disorders among delinquents, mental disease in prisoners, studies of psychopathic and sociopathic personalities. Right? So, as far as the justice is concerned, these psychological research are quite relevant, quite significant in terms of understanding the notion of punishment and justice in society. Let us come to the sociological analysis of crime. Sociological explanation. Sociologists, in contrast with biologists and psychologists, sociologists search for factors outside the individual. Psychologists and biologists found factors responsible for crime within individual, but sociologists found factors that led to crime outside the individual, that exist in social environmental setting, social cultural setting, not in individual. Right? Individuals are conditioned to do crime. Society is responsible for the crime. Right? How? We'll understand various theories for that matter. Sociologists look for social influence that recruit people to break social norms and become deviant, become criminals, become offenders. To account for why people commit crimes, for example, sociologists examine such external influences as socialization process, member of subcultural groups, and certain obligation of being a member of certain social class. In order to explore the dimension of sociological analysis, first we are going to understand the functional analysis of crime. We are quite aware about this perspective. Emile Durkheim was the architect of this perspective. This French sociologist is to be understood as the godfather of sociology, because Emile Durkheim gave the methodology to study society. Talks about social fact. Crime is also a social fact, and social fact is normal and universal. So crime is normal and universal. In all time, crime exists. Therefore, crime is to be understood as EPT to the social organization. Crime is an inevitable feature of society. Crime is normal because crime serves certain functions and may even help keep in society orderly. It cannot therefore be easily eliminated. Crime may be usefully understood in mapping these functions. And just as there can be no good without evil, so there can be no justice without crime. Crime, in short, we can say, indispensable to the process of generating and sustaining morality in society. Crime consists of an act that offends certain very strong collective sentiments. Right? While we were discussing about Emile Durkheim, particularly his work of division of labor in society, we presented two very different social arrangements, mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. As mechanical solidarity is based on the sameness, so we have a repressive form of crime. Restitutive form of crime exists societies of mechanical solidarity, right? And with the advent of industrial civilization, there is a drastic breakdown in society. Rampant individualism and rise of egoism, new social system weakens the feeling of social feeling, for that matter, breaks social bonds and makes social life more and more egoistic. Durkheim asserts that in time of rapid social change, anomie occur. Anomie means the state of normlessness. When social bonds are weakened or removed, a certain amount of crime and social disorder will result. Emile Durkheim provided one of the explanations for highest level of crime in industrial societies. One of the key features of industrial societies, one of the key features of mechanical solidarity is the weakening of many of social bonds important in pre-industrial societies. Ties of family, communities, church become less important in industrial societies. As families become smaller and workers become more and more mobile, independence of families comes into the picture. So the question of morality systematically, gradually becoming less and less. These are the very important consideration as far as the functionalist perspective is concerned. Another thinker who led the development of functional perspective is R.K. Merton. R.K. Merton says deviance occurred where there was imbalance between social structure, approved social means, and culture, that is approved goals. If there is a conflict between social structure and culture, that is approved social means and approved goal, there will certainly crime occur, right? Robert K. Merton gave anomie theory in 1968, which posits that inconsistencies and contradictions in the social system contribute to many forms of crime. Merton observed that people in United States are taught to strive for certain goals, but are not always provided with culturally approved means necessary to attain this goal. Here, he referred to such inconsistencies and the confusion they can cause people as anomie. Robert K. Merton, who observed American society very significantly manner. Even if you read the work of Merton, Merton has himself noted many countries much poorer than the United States, such as India, have lower rates of crime. Why? The lower rate of crime in India, despite its poverty, can be attributed to the fact that poverty alone does not operate in the same manner in each society. It is interdependent on other social and cultural variables. When there is traditionally little possibilities of getting ahead as a caste system, poverty does not occur in high rate of crime. Poverty does not account for high crime rate. Once the constitutional values in our country, such as equal opportunity for all, are held up before citizens, the levels of aspirations rise and the existing inequalities reformulate many constraints in society or in social structure. Resentments and frustrations. Social structured strain, this term is given by R.K. Morton, are likely to occur and ahead to higher rate of crime, violence, right? So R.K. Morton suggested four important things which led to anomie strain condition in society. The first, he talks about deviation in terms of innovation. Innovation describes the tendency to accept and strive for culturally approved goals, but do not do so through the use of illegitimate means. Right? Innovation is the adoption most frequently associated with crime. It depicts as typically working class adopting, leading poor people with no legitimate access to financial success to get involved in burglary, robbery and other poverty crimes. Right? So if you can see the slide, you will see plus, minus, plus. So plus is a approved goal, negative is illegitimate means. So just try to understand this concept with this mathematical formulations, right? Second thing he talks about is ritualism. Ritualism refers means the rejection of conventionally approved goals but maintenance of slavish adhere to socially approved means for achieving conventional goals, recognizing implausibility of approximately these values. If you can give example, low level bureaucratic officials, Morton suggests, often succumbed to ritualism as way of maintaining respectability, right? So they do corruption because they want to enhance their status, although they are getting less in terms of money from society. Third important thing he talks about, it's called retreatism. Retreatism refers to the rejection of socially approved goals and means, as this manifests in such behavioral pattern as from the mental illness, substance abuse and prejudice. Ritualism might also lead to criminalization. Instead of coping with the structural strain in society, retreats opt out altogether and speak with their own rewards through drug addiction, alcoholism, psychosis, so and so forth. Street crime are examples for that matter. Last but not the least is revelation. Revelation reflects the rejection of both legitimacy of the goal and of the means that are socially approved, minus for achieving the goal, while replacing both the goal and the means with novel goal and the means. Revelation is adopted by those who do not reject society's norms, goals, but also challenge their legitimacy. Their aim is to change the social system which creates the goal in the first place. Right? So this is the observation of Martin. Right? In next lecture, we are going to talk about conflict perspective and labeling theory and differential association theory of Sutherland. These three theories are quite relevant in terms of understanding the everyday life crime. Right?